Hey everybody, this is Matthew and welcome back to Nerd News Today. And on today's episode, we're taking a look at some new action figures, 2 new action figures, mind you. Although the way I'm doing it now, it's like there's 4, but whatever, 2. Take my word for it, 2. How about that? Is that better? And these action figures are based on the hit comic book series turned Amazon Prime animated series, and it's a great, ultra-violent, awesome comic book show. No, I'm not talking about The Boys, at least not this time around, but today I'm talking about Invincible, and we are taking a look at 2 of the latest action figures from Diamond Select's Invincible line. On this side over here, I have Alan the Alien, and on this side over here, I have Duplicate. Now, previously on this channel, I have taken a look at Invincible and Omni-Man. I didn't get a chance to actually review the other 2 figures that came before this, so this right here is figures 5 and 6. But that said, I was really into, and surprised how into I was with the Omni-Man and the Invincible action figures. They had great likenesses, wonderful articulation, good detail, really nice accessories as well. And I feel like these 2 figures are going to be very similar to that. So real quickly, because I do want to jump into the figures out of the box as fast as I can here, I do want to highlight the packaging here because I'm really a fan of how Diamond is doing their packaging. And I really like this sort of economical way that they're packing the toys here, because not only that, they're also very collector friendly. So both figures here have this nice rectangular style box with a ton of windows. You got a great big window on the front of each one, on both sides, as well as sunroofs on the top. So a lot of ways to make sure you're getting good quality in all your figures. So if you do buy these in the store, make sure to take your time and really soak those windows in, because how many other toys will give you that? Now, if you take a quick look at the back of the boxes as well, you'll notice that they are essentially identical. There's not really much of a difference between what's on the back of either of them here. They both have the same bios. It's essentially shared information. I do want to point out that there is a credit hiding in this here as well, and both these figures were sculpted by Chris Dahlberg. And for those of you who do want to keep these boxes, or maybe just are going to have a mint on card anyway, I do want to point out on the sides of the figures, you've got a nice comic book image of each one of these guys, as well as, and this is for you folks who are really into the box stuff here, we have numbers on each one. So all the figures have been numbered, and I don't mean individually numbered like the old Star Trek Playmates limited edition things, because we all know what a load of crap that was. But each of these figures, much like, let's say, G.I. Joe Classified, has a number on the side of the box. So if you're collecting them, you got a nice little way to set them up. But we're not mint on card collectors here. I'm out of the box. So I think without further ado, let's go ahead and get these guys out into the open and take a closer look at our Alan the Alien and our Duplicate figures. All right, and here are our Invincible Series 3 figures. We have now out of the box on the left Duplicate, and on the right Alan the Alien. So this is how they look right now, side by side, and we're not going to do these guys together necessarily like this. So I think what I want to do is let's start with Alan the Alien, and we'll take it from there. Now let's kick off our Alan section here by just doing a nice 360-degree rotation of him, so you can get an idea of how he looks from all different angles. Alan is like a fan favorite, I feel like, among Invincible people. And there's a reason why, because he's just a lot of fun. Shows up out of nowhere, gets into fights, but turns out he's actually a pretty cool dude and has a lot of good times with Invincible as the series goes on. So as far as figures go, you know, I gotta tell you now, let's take a backtrack for a second. Let's talk about Series 1, because that's the last time I reviewed these figures. Invincible, Omni-Man, they looked amazing. They had the cartoon look. They had great accessories, they had really solid articulation. They were really the total package of figures, and I feel like went under a lot of people's radars. You know, there aren't really a ton of Invincible merchandising out there, and these toys were excellent. And I think so far, my thoughts on Series 3 here, it's going to be just as good, maybe better. But let's go ahead and start diving into Alan right now. I want to start off like I always do, and that's with talking about this likeness. So does this look like Alan the Alien? And well, really, you could say that about any of the characters. Like, yeah, these look exactly like they do straight out of the cartoon. It's perfect. Like, there's really absolutely nothing to discuss with this. They have everything. The giant eyeball, the ear, and the head shape, and that's basically it. Because they kept really the integrity of the cartoon very much in mind when they designed these toys. So you're not going to see really too much differing looks on any of these. Like, they nailed it. And since we are talking likeness, I want to point out the additional Alan head sculpt that comes here with him doing the people's eyebrow. So there is another Alan head sculpt. We'll talk a little bit more about that later on. But yeah, there is our second head, and they all look great. And likewise, I'm going to say the same thing about the body and the way the body looks, the colors, the outfit, the design. This is pretty much what you would have seen if you watched Invincible on Amazon Prime. So they got it. That's really all I have to say here, is they got the look. And that's kind of what you want with a toy like this. You want to make sure it looks and feels like it's coming straight out of the cartoon. And this really does. Like, Diamond did a great job with this. So to be completely honest here, I feel like I'm just going to be rambling if I keep talking about how it looks like the cartoon, because really there's not a ton more to say about it. It really does look like they took 2D and turned it into 3D. So that's great. I could talk about some of the details here, like the cool popped collar he has, like his very awesome utility belt around his waist, his very exciting looking feet, because those are fun little alien feet right there. Look at his little doodads that he's got on the bottom there. But I think I want to spend some time talking about articulation as well right now, because that's another really strong point with these figures. And so let's just start by talking about head. Head is ball jointed on Alan, and very fluid head at that too. That's moving around really nicely and staying in place as well. We have ball jointed shoulders. So Alan can run up and give Invincible a hug now if he wants. Look how nice that is. Or he can do a double clothesline if you want to be more violent, of course. We have bicep swivel. We have a single jointed elbow. So not double jointed elbow, but I think all the Invincible characters are having still single jointed elbows. That's how that looks. The wrists can bend and flex as well. Same on both hands. We do have a torso section that moves nicely too. The waist does not move, so it's basically the chest part that's going to move for you. That's kind of typical with diamond figures. Legs don't really have much hindrance, so you can get some pretty good flexibility with that. We have a thigh cut as well, which is moving really well too. Single joint knee right there, and an ankle that can rotate. So one thing I haven't said, and I haven't said this I feel like in a lot of diamond reviews lately, is Alan is not stiff out the box. He's actually moving very, very nicely. Like, this is excellent. You know, in the past, I've been worried about some of these figures, in fact, and you guys have seen me deal with it on camera, where it's like the figure is so stiff that I recommend getting, you know, hair dryers or putting it in hot water baths or those kind of things to loosen up the joints, but Alan is not affected by that at all. So that's amazing. And, you know, I think I want to come back to Alan in a moment. So I want to talk about the second figure in this wave, and that would be Duplicate. And I want to point out something else, by the way. Maybe you guys haven't picked up on this yet, but with Alan and likewise a Duplicate, I don't have them on bases. They're actually standing up quite nicely and quite straight on their own. These are superbly balanced figures, so that is another real high point about the Invincible action figures here. So Duplicate, you guys remember her because she can duplicate. That's an easy way to remember her name. And she gets into some hijinks as well, to put it mildly. Gets into some trouble, but hey, you guys, if you haven't seen the series, go ahead and get on that. So Duplicate, likewise, very good head sculpt. You know, no complaints about that. Looks like she's pulled straight out of the cartoon. You know, I feel like every time I say that, you should take a drink. So if you're drinking something, go ahead. Why not? Unless you're underage. Drink responsibly. Duplicate looks really nice. Likewise, her outfit, same as I said with Alan. I mean, all the elements are there. And Duplicate's outfit is a lot simpler. This is her inner superhero gear, after all. So not really as much to discuss there, but it's the colors that matter. It's the choices that matter. It's really the little details that help make sure this thing keeps the experience immersive with the toy and doesn't make you have to think about things like, oh, that's not like I saw it in the cartoon. So yeah, they got all those elements there. And talk about articulation as well with Duplicate, and hers is just as good as Alan the Aliens, maybe even better. So head, ball jointed, really nice, really smooth, a lot of range of motion there. Shoulders on both arms, really nice, a little bit more stiff actually than Alan, but not by much. You can hear the clicking. And that just means there's like some kind of like, I guess maybe guideline or something there to help it stay in place, but she's moving around otherwise pretty good. We do have an upper shoulder sort of bicep joint, single joint for the elbow. The wrists can bend and flex, just like Alan. She can move her torso. Nothing on the waist, but the torso moves in lieu of that. We have very good, very, very good actually flexibility to Duplicate here. She can actually do a full split. Look at that. Or a really high side kick. We have our thigh joint, which can rotate on both legs. We have a single jointed knee here as well, and the ankles can sort of rotate. And hey, she has peg holes, by the way, and that would have been normally where you could put her into a base if you wanted to, but like I said, and like you've seen, she's been standing up just fine, and honestly just fine, with like very little work from me to get her to stay into position. And of course, I'll be like, right now, I'm gonna let my hands go and she'll stay in spot. Oh, let's get her straighter first. But yeah, I mean, she's standing up in pretty good looking pose. Okay, now that I'm like looking at the camera, actually, she's kind of in like a hee-haw, Cotton Eye Joe kind of pose, but you guys get the idea. She's standing up on her own two legs with no problems, and that is excellent. And in case you're wondering, yes, Duplicate also does have an additional head sculpt. So you can see the head she has on her right now. It's kind of more of like a mild-mannered head sculpt. Her second portrait is a little more of an angrier look. So you could say this is like the battle portrait, perhaps. Her eyebrows are a little bit more furrowed. They're fairly similar, but there are slight differences. So you do have a second Kate head, and we're going to talk about some of those differences also right now, because there's a reason why she's still pretty similar, but not too far off. So it is time to start talking accessories. And since I already showed you guys the head, let's just do a quick head swapperoo right now, just so I can show you how easy this hopefully will be. And, alright, well, yeah, that was so easy I didn't even finish my sentence before I got that head on her. So that's Duplicate with her second head sculpt. Let's have her look at the camera a little bit more. That's an angry Duplicate. So in addition to our head sculpt, there's one really important and very cool thing about Duplicate. And, well, frankly, it ties to her character and her name. So there's a lot of like cool vanilla accessories we'll take a look at in a moment, but I wanted to show you guys these bits of paper here. You might be wondering, why is this here? This is not that exciting. It's not that toyetic. This is not fun. Well, what you have here are numbers. You have numbers 1 through 9. You have 2 sheets of that. And the reason is because these are decals. These are decals that you could swap onto her chest to make her different versions of Duplicate. So you have a ton of numbers, a ton of options, and essentially this makes Duplicate your army builder for the Invincible series. I was not expecting that. This was like a nice little hidden surprise in the packaging. Didn't know it was coming with this, but when I saw it, I got it immediately. I understood it, and I was like, wow, that is brilliant. So for any real serious Invincible fans out there, Duplicate is going to be the one you want to get multiples of. In addition to that, she has 8 extra hands. I have them here just right now, like in my own hand, so I'm going to do some photos of them later on, swap them out. But those hands include a number of different poses, including a knife hand chop, some open hands, some sort of action fighting hands. She has hands that are able to grip things, so variety of different types of hands here to make for a lot of options, especially if you consider the fact that she's an army builder. That's really great to have. Now, I was saying a few moments ago how the other accessories are kind of vanilla, which I would say is like plain, but in reality, I forgot what she came with. Get ready to be grossed out, you guys. So we have some of Duplicate's limbs. Now, I don't remember what is actually happening here, but I believe this is her when she's like breaking apart or whatever, and it's pretty darn gory. Like there's like little leg guts and arm guts, and yeah, so these do not attach to her. These are just basically things to put around her, and these are gross AF. You got a leg, you got an arm, they're just exploding. There's some real Evangelion stuff going on right there. And if that didn't gross you out enough, don't worry, I have you covered, because we also have some of this stuff here. So this actually has a joint. So I believe this you'd like probably swap out an arm or something, or maybe even a leg. You'd attach it to like one of the big joints, but this is basically like how she would be swapping parts basically, or reforming into other versions of herself. So that's pretty gross. And likewise, you can do the same with her hands. These I'm going to show off on camera because they're just like so gross. I think I have to do at least one of them. See if I can pull out a hand. Hands in there are actually quite stiff, but that's not a bad thing either, because it's not like they're breaking. It's just that they're stiff. Let's see. I think it's actually, I'm not sure if this does go in here or not. It looks like it should, but it's giving me a little bit of difficulty. But basically, yeah, this is like her forming new versions of herself. It's quite gross. It's pretty nasty. And so aside from those weird little bits, we have one last accessory for her. And we got these also in the previous Invincible figures. We have a base, so she does have a base, not that she needs it. And it's an action base. So let me pan out right now. You can see what I'm talking about. So this is her action base, and this allows us to do some pretty cool posing that you otherwise could not achieve. So what it is an articulated arm that in theory will connect to the base and let us have our Duplicate floating in the air. And to do that, you just basically should be able to attach it right into the base. There we go, like that. So there is a peg hole in the base if you don't want to use this part of it, but if you want to have her floating, you put that in there. She has a hole in her back that you can just slide her into, and in theory, you could have her floating and doing stuff now. Now, as far as like making these things work, you know, I've never had great luck with these action bases. Like, they're great in theory, but application, I've always been confused by them. She's actually holding up pretty decently here. So I think a big key to that is just making sure like all these joints are tight, nice and tight, because if they're not, she will just fall over. So if you have these connector pieces in solid, you shouldn't have any issues. You know, when I actually did my first Invincible video, I think it was the Invincible figure, his base actually broke on camera. So that really sucked, but it looks like whatever they're doing here, they've corrected that issue because she's holding herself up pretty nicely. And as far as like the weight in these bases go, I don't know how much they can actually handle. It is something you want to be a little bit careful with, but it's nice to have it. And at the very least, she's kind of doing something. Well, she was doing something. So yeah, I will let you guys at home figure out how to use this. And by the way, if anybody who's watching has any suggestions on how to use it better, do let me know. And no, I did not just break it. If you're new to this type of base, these actually are segmented. So you can swap them out, make it shorter, make it longer, however you want to do it. So you have a lot of options here. And it's those options especially that make this Duplicate really, really good. So let's talk accessories now with Alan the Alien. I'm going to start off like I did with Duplicate by popping off a head. And let's put on his more inquisitive head sculpt and see how easy this goes on. Oh, actually, it's already on. Yeah, that's on. Okay, cool. Once again, I didn't even finish that sentence before it stayed in place. So excellent. So that's how he looks with his other head sculpt. In addition to that, Alan comes with 10 more hands. Yeah, 10 more hands. That's a huge amount of hands. And they're all doing different things here. We have closed fists, we have some like more passive hands, we have some more action hands, some more conversational hands, and we even have one that's like a pointer finger that you could even argue is like a middle finger, but it's about as close as you can get to a middle finger. So yeah, you got really nice pointer fingers, a lot of options for posing here. That part is really good. And just to show you guys that it does in fact work and do what it's supposed to do, I'm going to pop some hands off right now with Alan, just because he does have a few other accessories. I'd like him to be able to try to hold them, because that's kind of an important thing to know as well, like whether or not these toys can actually hold the things that they come with. So we have the hands in, they went in very easy. These are kind of like his more basic holding hands, I feel like, or they're kind of like his Seinfeld hands, like, what's the deal with airline food? So there's some hands. And it's good that he has those because he has two other accessories to put into those hands. One of them would be his little computer over here, his little pad computer, whatever you want to call it, but he comes with this little guy. This is like his map to Earth, or as he misspells it, Wrath there. So this would go in one hand, let's just say, and let's see if we can actually get him to hold it here. So yeah, you know, I never noticed how much this looks like a PS Vita in his hands. But yeah, all right, so that should actually hold. I'm doing this really poorly, so apologies to everybody, but there you go. If you get it a little bit closer, he can in fact hold that in his hands, and that's how that looks. So that's pretty decent. That's not so bad. He also comes with a bowl of grub, and I'm calling it grub because I don't remember what it actually is called that he eats, but I believe this is some food stuff that he can have. And let's see if we can get this into his hands, try and pinch his arms a little bit tighter together. And, well, I don't want to have him spill it all over himself, but there we go. So there you go. You got some food in his hands. That's how that weird plate's gonna look right there. But of course, that's not all. There is still more. We have 3 other weird little accessories here. These I completely forgot what they're called, because it's been a while since I watched the show, so if anybody wants to remind me what they are, please go ahead. But these are these little alien dudes. So we have 2 of these like flat ones here. They have like almost brains and tentacles. I really wish I could remember what these things were now, because it's like killing me. I know they were like somewhat important in the show. So we have 2 of these guys. They're kind of flat and can lay down on the tables. But we also have this third one that is actually shaped to kind of fit over his head. I don't know if it's meant to do that or not, because again, I can't remember what they're for, but this can go on his head and really any other characters as well. So it's almost like a little Starro type thing, but there you go, that's that. But even with that all said, there's still actually one additional accessory, and that's this thing here. So again, we have a base. This is a different base than what we got with our Duplicate, but we have this, and this is, I guess, our action stand this time. It's much smaller, and I'm not even sure if, like, yeah, I guess it just attaches in here. And so, yeah, a lot weaker. He's kind of just hovering in the air a little bit now, and that's about it. So it's like it's like the least impressive thing, really. It doesn't even hold his weight. I mean, let me pull the camera out right now. You can see what I'm talking about here. Like, this is what he came with. Does not support his weight at all. It's kind of a joke. I don't understand the point of it. I don't know if any of his other accessories attached to it, but as far as I can tell, they don't. Like, it's not even for the little aliens, because there's no holes there to stick it in. So whatever this thing's for, I don't know. I consider it a miss. It's nice that it's included, I guess, but I'd love to know how it's supposed to function to the character that weighs so much more than this little thing does. Let's do some quick figure comparisons to see how these Invincible figures stand up next to some other toys here. Start things off with a AEW Kenny Omega figure from Jazzwares. He's in the about 6.5, 7 inch range as well, so he should be a little bit smaller depending on the characters. You guys can see that, yes, he kind of is a little bit smaller. Yeah, so that's how he fits in there. It's not the worst in this case, though. Typically, we've seen it be a little weirder at times. But let's try a G.I. Joe Classified figure now and see how he looks there. So that's our Cobra Bat Trooper. And Duplicate is basically as tall as him. So that should give you an idea right there of the size of some of these guys. Let's try a NECA RoboCop as well, show you how he's going to look compared to them. Because NECA figures would be more in scale with the Diamond stuff. They're definitely closer in scale. And likewise with like McFarlane toys, they should be fairly similar. And you can see it right here. And if you don't believe me about McFarlane toys, how about we try on a Joker for size. There's our Heath Ledger Joker. I will admit the Heath Ledger Joker feels a little tall, so this is not necessarily the best figure to compare him to, but this is how basically the rundown is going to look when you put these guys next to others. But there is one other very important figure I think we need to include in this right now, and that would be Invincible himself. That's Invincible from Series 1. Let's see if we can get him to stand up straight. And, you know, like I said earlier, the first series of figures were really good. They were excellent figures. They kind of came out of nowhere, and I feel like they're just like so forgotten about now almost, but maybe it's just because of how these figures are being rolled out. I don't know. But this is a really solid line. So if you're a fan of the Invincible series, it's like there's really no reason you shouldn't be getting them because they're great, and this is how they look side by side as a scale. Omni-Man and other guys I don't have with me at the moment, and the other two I didn't even get at all yet. But here you guys go, Invincible figures all together. So that's our look at Series 3 of the Invincible figures from Diamond Select. That's Alan the Alien, and eventually you're going to see Duplicate pass by as well in this shot. But really, as far as these toys go, you know, like I was saying already, like I've said throughout this video, this is a really good line. It's a really great line that I think a lot of folks aren't even aware exists. And, you know, there's not a lot of stuff out there for Invincible. So if you're a fan of Invincible, if you're a fan of the cartoon show or the comic, doesn't matter which one, I highly recommend these. And as far as toys go too, just as a toy itself, they're really great. I mean, the number of accessories they have, the fact that each one of them comes with like 8 to 10 hands, I mean, that's a lot. Plus they still have other things to go with them. Great paint jobs, they all come with simple bases. The one downside still is those action bases. I just maybe don't know how to work them correctly, so if anybody has any pro tips for those, let me know. But these figures are so much heavier than those action bases that they're kind of pointless to even have. But other than that, you know, I don't really even think you need those bases, other than to hold them up and keep them flat on the floor. And you guys saw in this entire video, I didn't use those bases to hold them up. They can stand up fine on their own, so it's not even necessary. So really, these are super figures, pun totally intended. Yeah, I went there. It's been a whole review. I didn't make that joke somehow, so I'll do it right now, get it out of the way. But yeah, really good figures, very solid, recommend them. And if you want to pick them up for yourself, I recommend you guys use my Amazon affiliate links in the description below this video. If you click on any of those links to pick up these toys or anything else from Amazon, they support this YouTube channel at no extra cost to you. The Invincible line, I believe, still has some more legs. There's still some more room to go. There's plenty of other characters they haven't gotten to yet. So let me know in the comments who you'd like to see Diamond Select do next in the Invincible series. So until next time, I'm Matthew. This has been Nerd News Today. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you think about this toy, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Say bye-bye, Alan.